They thought he was just another quiet inmate. But when the prison's biggest bully tried to break him, he found out the hard way who Marcus Kane really was. Because before Iron Gate, Marcus wasn't a criminal. He was a legend, an undefeated MMA champion known as the Panther. And when you corner a man who's already fought his demons, you don't just start a fight and you start a reckoning. Yo, fresh meat! That's the first thing they yelled when Marcus Kane stepped through the steel gates of Iron Gate prison, a place where respect was currency and weakness could cost you your life. The heavy metal doors clanged shut behind him with a sound that made most new inmates flinch. Marcus didn't. His face was calm, his movements deliberate, and his silence spoke louder than words. He was a tall, broad-shouldered black man in his 30s, his skin glistening under the harsh fluorescent lights. His dark eyes scanned the yard, every corner, every face, not with fear, but with focus. He walked like a man who'd seen worse places than this. Around him, the prison yard buzzed with noise, weights clanging, sneakers scraping against concrete, and laughter that carried more menace than joy. Some men stared, others ignored him, but every single one of them felt something shift when Marcus passed. He didn't look broken like most newcomers. He didn't shuffle his feet, didn't keep his eyes low. He carried himself differently, calm, balanced, like someone who had nothing to prove. The guards noticed too, but they didn't care. To them, Marcus was just another inmate, another name on a file. They'd seen the same story 1,000 times. A man comes in proud, gets humbled in a week, then fades into the background. But the inmates, they noticed everything, especially one man, Rex Dalton, the self-proclaimed king of Iron Gate. A white, heavily tattooed wall of muscle with scars on his knuckles and a permanent sneer on his face. He'd been inside for 8 years and had turned fear into an art form. When Rex walked into a room, people got quiet. When he pointed, others did his dirty work. Rex sat at a table in the yard watching Marcus walk by with his crew. 3 big guys who laughed at every cruel joke he made. Another tough guy, huh? Rex muttered, smirking. Let's see how long he lasts. He lit a cigarette, exhaling smoke through his nose as his cold blue eyes followed Marcus. He could already tell this one was different. The way he moved, the way he didn't react to the chaos around him. It annoyed Rex because men like Marcus didn't fit his system. They didn't kneel. Later that evening, Marcus was led to his cell, a small concrete box that smelled of bleach and rust. His cellmate, an older man named Henderson, nodded quietly. You're the new guy, huh? Better keep your head down. Rex don't like strong types. Marcus simply nodded, setting his few belongings on the small metal shelf. I'm not here to impress anyone. Night fell over Iron Gate and the noise of the prison died down. The echo of boots faded, replaced by the distant hum of buzzing lights. Marcus sat on his bunk, a worn-out Bible in his hands. The pages creased and faded from years of reading. His lips moved silently as he read a verse, the words a quiet anchor in a violent sea. Across the cell block, in a dimly lit corner, Rex watched him from his bunk. His grin was slow and mean. Bible boy, huh? He muttered to one of his crew members. We'll see how long he stays holy after I'm done with him. He wasn't used to men ignoring him. He wasn't used to silence being a challenge. But Marcus wasn't trying to challenge anyone. He'd learned long ago that pride could get a man killed, and patience could save him. Still, he could feel it in the air. That sharp, electric tension that comes before a storm. He knew Rex was watching, testing, waiting. Marcus closed his Bible gently, set it aside, and lay back on the bunk. His eyes stared at the ceiling, calm but alert. He'd promised himself he wouldn't fight again. Not after everything he'd lost, but in a place like Iron Gate. Sometimes violence didn't ask for permission, and deep down, Marcus could already tell trouble was coming. He just didn't know that when it did, it would awaken a side of him the world thought was long gone. 2 days later, it happened. It was lunchtime in the Iron Gate mess hall and a long, echoing room filled with the clatter of metal trays and the smell of overcooked beans. Inmates sat in groups, eating fast, talking low. The guards stood near the doors, pretending to watch but not really caring. Marcus Kane sat alone at the far end, eating quietly. His eyes stayed down, focused on the food. He'd learned to keep to himself. No noise, no drama. Just peace. But peace never lasted long in a place like this. A sudden slam echoed through the hall. A tray hit the table so hard it splashed food across Marcus's shirt. The entire room went silent. Standing in front of him was Rex Dalton, the prison's undisputed king. His tattooed arms flexed as he leaned forward, his face just inches away from Marcus's. The kind of man who lived off fear, the kind who needed to be watched but never was. "You sittin' in my spot, rookie," Rex growled, his voice low and dangerous. Marcus looked up slowly, meeting his eyes without a hint of fear. "Didn't see your name on it," a few inmates gasped quietly. Forks stopped clinking. Even the guards looked over. No one, talked back to Rex Dalton. For a long, tense second, Rex just stared at Marcus, his smirk fading. Then he chuckled, the kind of laugh that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. "You got jokes?" he said, his grin returning. "You think you're tough or something?" Marcus didn't reply. He calmly set down his fork, stood up, and picked up his tray. Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving behind a table full of spilled food and one very angry man. The silence hung for a moment before the mess hall exploded with whispers. "Yo," he walked away from Rex. "Man's crazy." "Nah, he's dead." Rex stood there, his fists clenching. To everyone else, it looked like Marcus had backed down, but to Rex it felt like something worse. Disrespect. He slammed his tray off the table, sending food flying. "Tomorrow," he growled to his crew, "we teach him how this place really works." That night, the whole block buzzed with talk. Word spread like fire. The new guy had stood up to Rex Dalton. Some said he was brave. Others said he was stupid. Rex's crew, 3 of the meanest men in the prison, laughed it off, but even they could feel the tension. They'd seen Rex angry before, but this was different. This time his pride was on the line. Marcus, meanwhile, sat quietly in his cell, cleaning the food off his shirt. His cellmate Henderson shook his head. "You shouldn't have done that, son." "Rex don't let things go." Marcus didn't look up. "I didn't come here to fight." "Yeah," Henderson sighed, "but sometimes in this place, the fight comes to you." Marcus placed his tray aside and opened his Bible again, his thumb running over a verse he'd read 100 times before. His breathing stayed slow, steady, calm. But inside, something old was stirring. He'd promised himself to leave that life behind. The violence, the rage, the part of him that once lived for the fight. But as the echo of Rex's laughter carried down the cell block, Marcus knew exactly what was coming. By morning, every inmate in Iron Gate knew too. The word spread through the yard like wildfire. Rex Dalton was going after the new guy, but what they didn't know, what no one knew, was who Marcus Kane really was. To them, he was just another quiet inmate. But in the outside world, he'd once been feared and respected as the deadliest MMA champion in history. And if Rex pushed him too far, Iron Gate Prison was about to witness a side of Marcus the world had hoped never to see again. Before prison, Marcus Kane wasn't a criminal. He was a legend. In the world of mixed martial arts, his name was whispered with both fear and admiration. The Panther. He fought with a calm that terrified opponents. No trash talk, no theatrics, no showboating, just precision, discipline, and devastating skill. His record? 41 wins, 0 losses. Not a single opponent had ever managed to knock him down. Fans loved him. Fighters feared him. Promoters begged for his next match. Marcus was at the top of the world, undefeated, unstoppable, and untouchable. But behind the fame and the glory, Marcus carried something heavy, a responsibility. His younger brother, Jerome, was everything to him. Where Marcus had discipline, Jerome had dreams but no direction. Marcus tried to guide him, to keep him away from the streets, from the gangs that lurked in their neighborhood. He'd promised their mother he'd protect him, and for a long time, he did, until that one night. It was after Marcus's biggest fight, the championship in Las Vegas. The crowd was screaming his name, flashbulbs lighting up the arena as the announcer declared him the greatest MMA fighter of his era. But while the world celebrated his victory, tragedy was waiting back home. Marcus returned to Atlanta that night, exhausted but happy, carrying the gold championship belt he'd worked his entire life for. But when he opened the door to his apartment, the sound of silence hit him like a punch. Something was wrong. The lights were on. The TV was playing static. And there, on the floor, was Jerome, gone. Shot by gang members Marcus had warned him about. The same ones he'd tried to keep his little brother away from. The police said it was over money. Marcus didn't care. All he saw was red. That night something inside him snapped. He didn't sleep. Didn't think. He tracked down the man who pulled the trigger, a low-level gang enforcer named Rico. Marcus didn't take a weapon. He was the weapon. When they found Rico hours later, he was barely alive. Multiple fractures, broken ribs, and a shattered jaw. Marcus hadn't killed him, but he'd come close. The next morning, Marcus turned himself in. He didn't run, didn't argue, didn't make excuses. The cameras flashed again, but this time not for victory. He was charged with aggravated assault and sentenced to 7 years in Iron Gate prison. The world moved on. The headlines disappeared. Fans forgot his name, but Marcus didn't. He carried it, the guilt, the anger, the grief, and every single day. Inside Iron Gate, he made a choice: to bury the Panther, to leave behind the fighter, the rage, the man who could end another life with a single strike. He found faith in the quiet hours of his cell, found peace in routine prayer and patience. He became the man who read his Bible instead of throwing punches. But peace is fragile, especially in a place built on violence. And for all his self-control, Marcus was still human, still haunted. He knew every fight began long before the first punch was thrown. And when he saw Rex Dalton's eyes that day in the mess hall, full of pride, arrogance, and hunger for domination, Marcus recognized something dangerous. He'd seen those same eyes before. In the cage, in the streets, in the men who destroyed his brother's life. He didn't want to fight anymore. But if Rex pushed too far, the world was about to remember exactly why Marcus Kane had once been called the Panther. Because when predators meet peace, only one survives. It happened on a hot, tense afternoon during workout hour. The Iron Gate prison yard was alive with the sound of clanging weights, laughter, and curses. But everyone could feel something different in the air that day. Whispers passed from one inmate to another like sparks before a fire. Rex is going to do it today. He's finally going after the new guy. Marcus Kane stood near the pull-up bars, sweat glistening on his back as he finished a quiet set of push-ups. To him, it was just another day. Another hour of discipline. Another test of patience. But behind him, trouble was coming. Rex Dalton and his crew, 3 men built like bulldozers, marched across the yard with purpose. Their boots thudded against the dirt as other inmates stepped back, clearing a wide circle. Even the guards didn't intervene. They'd seen this before. They knew how it ended, or at least they thought they did. Rex stopped just a few feet away, his tattooed arms flexing, his jaw tight. "Still think you're too good to talk, huh?" Rex sneered, voice dripping with mockery. "You gonna learn respect today, preacher man." Marcus turned, calm as ever. His eyes met Rex's, steady, unreadable. He didn't posture. He didn't threaten. He simply said in that same quiet tone, "Walk away, Rex, you don't want this." That single sentence made the yard erupt in laughter. "Yo," he told him to walk away. "Ha!" someone shouted. Rex grinned wide, feeding off the attention. "Oh, I want this," he said, his voice low. "Dangerous." Then he swung. A heavy right hook, and the kind that could shatter a jaw, came flying toward Marcus. But Marcus didn't move like other men. He ducked effortlessly, barely shifting his feet. The punch whooshed past his head, missing completely. Rex cursed and swung again, harder this time. Another miss. A few inmates started murmuring. They could tell something was off. The way Marcus moved, it wasn't luck. It was skill. And then, for the first time, Marcus moved, one step forward. A sudden blur. In less than a heartbeat, Rex was on the ground. His arm twisted behind his back, face pressed into the dirt, gasping for air. No one saw how he did it. 1 second, Rex was attacking. The next, he was helpless. Marcus's voice was calm, almost gentle. "I told you, walk away." He released him and stepped back, turning to leave. But humiliation burned hotter than pain. Rex roared, pushing himself up, spitting blood. "I ain't done with you." He charged again, wild, reckless, furious. This time, Marcus didn't hold back. He shifted his stance slightly, his body flowing with practiced precision. Then, 3 strikes. A lightning-fast blow to the chest, and the air burst from Rex's lungs. A sharp strike to the ribs. The sound of cracking bone echoed. And finally, a clean, controlled shot to the jaw. Rex's body went limp before he even hit the ground. He collapsed in the dirt, motionless. Silence fell over the yard. Even the wind seemed to stop. Dozens of men stood frozen, staring at Marcus like they'd just seen a ghost. The guards, usually quick to jump in, didn't move. They just watched, eyes wide, hands hovering over their radios, unsure whether to act or stay out of it. Marcus stood over Rex for a moment. No anger, no satisfaction, just quiet. He looked around the yard, met the eyes of a few stunned inmates, then turned and walked away slowly, back to the pull-up bars, back to his peace. No victory dance. No threats, just silence. That day, something shifted inside Iron Gate. The story spread before the sun even set. The new guy dropped Rex Dalton with 3 hits. Nah, man, he didn't even try. They say he used to be a pro fighter, a real killer. By nightfall, every man in Iron Gate knew the truth. The quiet inmate who read his Bible was no ordinary man. That day, the legend of the Panther returned, not under bright lights or in a roaring arena, but behind cold prison walls where fear ruled until he took it back. From that day forward, no one, and that meant no one, messed with Marcus Kane. The man who'd walked into Iron Gate as a quiet mystery was now a legend behind bars. The story of how he dropped Rex Dalton, the prison's most feared bully, with just 3 strikes spread like wildfire through every block. By the next morning, Marcus's name was being whispered everywhere, in the cafeteria, in the showers, in the yard. That new guy? He's something else. He didn't even look angry. Man, I heard he used to be an MMA champion or something. Even Rex, after he woke up hours later in the infirmary, couldn't bring himself to look Marcus in the eye again. He didn't apologize. He didn't have to. In prison, silence was an apology. Something strange happened after that day. The air in Iron Gate changed. The tension that had always hung heavy over the yard seemed to lift. The inmates who once spent their days fighting, arguing, and proving themselves suddenly had something new to talk about. Something, or rather someone, to respect. But Marcus didn't use that respect to rule. He didn't demand loyalty or control. He didn't build a gang or take Rex's place as the new king. Instead, he did something no one expected. He started teaching. At first, it was small. A few younger inmates came to him curious. They wanted to know how he'd done it, how he'd taken down a man twice his size in seconds. Marcus didn't show them how to hurt people. He showed them how to control themselves, breathing techniques, balance, focus. Violence isn't about power, he told them one afternoon, standing in the dusty yard. It's about control. You can't control your fists if you can't control your mind. Soon more men joined. Word spread that the Bible fighter was teaching something different. Not just punches, but peace. Even the guards noticed the change. Fights in the yard became less frequent. Tension between rival groups began to fade. And for the first time in years, Iron Gate wasn't ruled by fear. It was guided by respect. Marcus would wake up before dawn, pray quietly in his cell, then spend the day training others. It wasn't about strength, and it was about purpose. He watched men who used to fight over bread now meditate beside him. He saw anger turn into focus, pride into patience. One afternoon, a young inmate named Darnell, who'd been locked up for armed robbery, approached him after training. "Hey, Kane," he asked softly. "Why didn't you fight back right away when Rex came at you? You could have crushed him from the start." Marcus smiled gently, eyes calm. "Because fighting doesn't make you strong," he said. "Knowing when not to, that's real power." That line stuck. Inmates began repeating it. It became a kind of saying inside Iron Gate, a quiet code of honor that Marcus had unknowingly created. Years passed. Marcus served his time quietly, never asking for special treatment, never boasting about who he used to be. But everyone knew he was different. When the day finally came for his release, the entire yard stood watching. No jeers, no laughter, just silence and nods of respect. Even Rex stood in the crowd, arms folded, eyes lowered. Marcus paused at the gates for a moment, looking back at the place that had once been his prison, and realizing it had also been his redemption. He walked out not as an inmate, not even as the undefeated MMA champion the world once cheered for, but as a man reborn. The world remembered him as a fighter, But inside Iron Gate, he became something far greater, a mentor, a leader, a man who showed that even the deadliest warrior can find peace, if he learns to fight his demons first. And as the gates closed behind him, Marcus Kane smiled softly to himself. For the first time in years, he was free, not just from prison, but from the past.